I have a great biscuit recipe, and here's the scoop. I use it for savory, I use it for sweet. It's an all-purpose double-duty biscuit recipe, so pay attention. What I'm doing here is making a little cinnamon sugar, which means about a tablespoon of sugar and not that much cinnamon, maybe a half a teaspoon. This is gonna be my topping on my biscuit, so I'm just getting it all ready off to the side. And here's the way it goes. 1 3/4 cup flour. And I love this simple recipe. You can just make it, easy as could be. And of course, one of its features is you can freeze the biscuits. And that's great when you go to the trouble to make biscuits and you want to make a dessert. You just maybe want to pull a few biscuits out. So when you have some extra time, just get it made, get the biscuits in the freezer. And just like everything else I say, it's like anything you can do ahead like that and still make it homemade makes your life so much easier. So baking powder, we have 2½ teaspoons. And this is really going to give our biscuits their lift, which is why we have a good amount of the baking powder. It's our only leavener in here. And then 1 teaspoon of salt. So I'm just going to take my cutter here. Now you could use forks, you could use a couple knives, but this is one of the times I really love the pastry cutter. So butter, I need 6 tablespoons. This is ice cold, so I'm just going to take a couple tablespoons off. And then that's important, when you're making pie dough, when you're making biscuits, and I like to have it cold, that is, but I like to take it and cut it into smaller pieces first. So I just cut it lengthwise before I put them all together and just make little cuts. I usually just keep it right on this wrapper, and then it's easy to just dump right in and get it going a little bit before you move on and get your milk. So this is the way you would start a pie dough. You have your dry ingredients and you take your ice cold butter or lard. Lots of people use lard in their biscuits. And just make sure that you get these butter pieces until they're pea-sized. And that's good. And then a little bit of a well in the center. And I have 3/4 cup of milk. And that's it. Simple as could be to get homemade biscuits done. And then I'm just gonna grab my spoon and just stir it around a little bit. We don't want to overmix this. We just want to get it in, get it completely mixed, and as soon as it holds itself together a little bit, that's a pretty nice texture. Then I'll just flour my counter and turn it right over onto the counter. Don't be shy with your flour. So how I move on from here, it looks like a little bit of a mess, but it's not, is I'll just take it with my hands and gather it together without actually kneading it or anything like that. And any of those little chunks of butter that's still left in there, that's what gets really hot and steamy and bursts when it's in the oven, and that's what makes the flaky biscuits. All right, so I just took my rolling pin and got some flour on there, and we want to make a total of about 12 biscuits. So you can kind of picture that in my biscuit sizes like this. So then I'll just take the biscuit cutter and just get a little bit of flour on it and go around. And the nice thing about this dough, because I didn't overwork it, is we can just take the edges, anything that's left, and gather it together, and we still have a nice, tender, flaky biscuit. Now what's fun about these is that they cook in no time also. So they'll cook preheated oven at about 450 degrees, and they should be done in about really 13 minutes, 15 minutes max, and you just cook them a few minutes longer if they're frozen. Okay, one more little thing, and this is how I'm sweetening them up for dessert. Now I'm using milk, but if for some reason you had melted butter around or cream, that'd be fine. You just need to get a little bit of liquid on top of each biscuit so that it can be like the glue for the cinnamon sugar. And that's what makes it nice and sweet. And then just take your cinnamon sugar here and sprinkle on top right before you pop it in the oven. As I always tell my kids, if it doesn't smell like a nectarine, it's not going to taste like one. If it doesn't smell like a peach, it's not going to taste like a peach. And this smells like a nectarine. And that's when you want to make a dessert like this, when you're really relying upon the fresh fruit to deliver the bulk of the oomph. Although these biscuits, wait till you see them come out of the oven, they've got some pretty good oomph themselves. Anyway, I'm just peeling this here, and I don't peel a nectarine or a peach and not think of my grandmother. She used to always take, the peaches are pretty much stone fruits, and cut them like this and get them in a bowl And she loved to put triple sec in. Triple sec is an orange liqueur, and it's one of those bottles that sit in your liquor cabinet, and it pretty much can spend a long time in there. So here's my fruit all cut up. I have a pound. And then a nice, beautiful orange. And just squeeze the juice right in here. Just use a couple tablespoons. You really want to just get a really nice, beautiful, juicy sauce going. And actually, sometimes I'll even take, if it's the time of year for strawberries, I really like the flavor of orange with strawberries too. I wouldn't necessarily put the triple sec in for that though. So 2 tablespoons of triple sec. Not enough to do anything but just boost up a little bit of flavor. And that's it, you're completely ready. Just give it a nice toss, and then maybe just give it a taste to make sure everything tastes great. Oh, yum. That orange just brings out the nectarine flavor. So I'm hoping my biscuits are ready. Oh yeah, they're beautiful. This is exactly what you want them to look like. Raised up. Remember what I said about those chunks of butter? They just explode and they make tender yet really flaky biscuits. So here's how I do this. I take my favorite looking biscuit. I'm going to take this one. And then open it up. And then just to gild the biscuit, a little bit of butter. It's dessert. I can have a little bit of butter, just a tiny little bit. And this is where it gets kind of crazy. But I guarantee you, if you're having cake or anything else like that, it's going to be like this too. I put the ice cream down first, on top of the butter and the hot biscuits, yes. And I'll take a couple scoops of ice cream. And then, now comes the star of the show, that beautiful fruit. And it just gets spooned right on top. And then let it just sort of drip over to the side. And then the sauce just gets into those beautiful, hot, warm biscuits. And maybe take a little bit more, and maybe a little bit of juice. And that's dessert.